here's the interesting thing about Trey Sermon, and I feel like there was some strategy involved in this, because if they had cut him yesterday instead of putting him on the initial 53, then he would have been in that first wave of guys that are hitting waivers, right?
Right.
And so I think for them, they like him enough to where they want to continue to work with him and develop him, but he's not good enough to be on this team, right? Or they like him enough to develop him because they don't want to look like they wasted a third round pick, is probably more likely.
Right.
So they want to keep him on the practice squad. So I like the way that they went about it. I also think this is the right move. I mean, when I was putting together what I thought the roster would look like, I had him and Hasty being cut. So I think they made the right move here. But the way that they did it a day later, I think was also very smart, because they do have an opportunity to keep him if they want to bring him back on the practice squad as well.
Yeah, and it's like it was embarrassing that you traded up in round 3 to get him and he didn't work out. But another way you could look at it is someone pushed him off the roster. It's not like he was, I mean, yeah, he's not good, but they would have kept him. Jordan Mason is good. Undrafted rookie free agent. He's so good. Someone had to go. And from John Lynch's perspective, it's like, okay, yeah, I missed on this trade, but I got this diamond in the rough. It equals out. So it's like, yeah, this one didn't work out, but we still got a running back. Like, Jordan Mason is everything we wanted Trey Sermon to be. So what's the difference? This guy's name is Jordan. His name is Trey. Now they don't have that confusion of two Treys in the same huddle. That was confusing.
No, very confusing. We thought that a starting running back and quarterback had to be named Trey. That was the rules. Turns out that's not necessarily the case, Grant.
Yeah.
But the rest of the practice squad is also shaping up. So for me, this was my concern yesterday, was they decided to keep 3 quarterbacks. Obviously, the Jimmy news was crazy, right? Even though you thought that he was going to stay, I don't think the way that it happened was anything that anybody could have really predicted. And just how last second it was like, oh, by the way, we reworked his contract. Here's a press conference. So for me, I was worried about losing guys like Willis, Malik Turner, like those types of players. Castro Fields, who they did actually end up losing. Yeah, Poe. Like those were the guys. And then it was funny because they ended up losing all of them. I'm like, oh God, like they didn't keep any of these guys with a lot of talent, and they let go of Teray. But really, if you look at the practice squad, Malik Turner's back, Teray's back, Poe's back, Quantrez Knight's back. Like, they did a really good job of keeping a lot of these fringe players on the roster. The only one that they really lost, and maybe to them it's not that big of a loss, is Castro Fields. Like, that's the one guy that I think people are really like, I wish he would have stuck around, right? Like, I wish we could have seen him develop. But I think they did a pretty good job constructing this whole thing overall.
Yeah, Tariq Castro Fields, it would have been nice. Like, could they have kept him instead of Curtis Robinson, 6th linebacker? He's here for special teams. Like, yeah, it's good to have a special teams guy, but Tariq Castro Fields is a cornerback who you kept Brock Purdy because he's a quarterback, right? It's an important position. Well, Tariq Castro Fields is a cornerback, and you kept a 6th linebacker. Or the other way you could look at it is you kept Ambry Thomas over Tariq Castro Fields. That's the thing. I'd like to I'm going to track those 2 careers and see which one has a better career. Because at least in camp, I thought Castro Fields was better. They're both about 6'1". They both run 4.3. I mean, they both have similar athletic profiles. Ambry was just a 3rd-round pick, and he's done something, though. Trey Sermon did absolutely nothing for the 49ers in the NFL. Ambry had that pick week 18. So he's had moments. I guess they felt like you can't just cut him because of a bad offseason or whatever. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
Well, one thing I think the 49ers proved, or Shanahan proved to us, is we had questions. Last week we talked about this. We talked about cut day coming up and how quickly are they willing to let go of some of these guys, right? Just a year ago, they drafted Ambry, who we thought was a fringe player. They drafted Sermon, who we thought would be a fringe roster player. And it turns out, if they bring Sermon back onto the practice squad, which I think they will, I don't think Taylor Hawkins, I think that's the one guy that I'm looking at saying,
you think Sermon clears waivers?
I do. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so, because they waited till day 2. Like, they let all the frenzy happen, and they're like, oh, let's just sneak him onto the waivers and see if we can sneak it past everybody. Yeah, I do.
I mean, he should, but it just, wow, what a come down.
Yeah.
What a come down.
Absolutely. Yeah. So assuming they do get him back, I mean, they weren't really that willing to let go of these guys early enough. Potentially, we'll see. I mean, hopefully it works out for them, but yeah, man, it's an interesting turn. And I think a lot of those roster questions, I still question the 4 tight ends. Like, that's a little interesting to me. I don't, that one I'm still questioning. But
did they pick up Tyler Kroft? I missed that today.
I think so. I think they did bring him back. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Hold on.
All indications were that they were, and I'm pretty sure that I've
moves.
seen somewhere that he came back.
Tyler Kroft. Yeah. Okay. Tyler Kroft for sure. And Jordan Willis.
Yeah.
So Tyler Kroft and Jordan Willis back.
Yeah. Which I like Willis being back.
I like him too. I mean, he was one of the main reasons they were in the NFC Championship game last year. Let's be frank.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of things had to go their way, and he was part of it. Brandon, thank you for becoming a member. 49ers Cade says, I'm okay seeing Sermon go. He stutters behind the line more than I stutter talking to an attractive girl. Too much information.
Yeah, a little TMI. I'm not going to lie. Little TMI.
It's okay, 49ers Cade. I think you're a great guy, and you should be really confident. Go up there and say it from your heart. Sermon stutter stepping is a lot like, to me, he was a lot like Carlos Hyde. The Niners drafted Carlos Hyde, and they thought he was just going to be this vicious between the tackle zone read guy. And he was just like always trying to bounce to the outside. They're like, no, what are you doing? And Sermon was like that, but even more. It's like, I don't know what happened, but in preseason this year, he was not running hard enough. It's like he didn't have his heart in it. He was better last year. I don't know what the hell that was. Don't know.
I genuinely do think there might be something to him getting knocked out in one of his first carries. Like that has to mentally hang with you a little bit, I would imagine. Plus the pressure of knowing that you've got a lot of good backs on this team. They just drafted another guy in round 3, and they brought a UDFA in that's killing it. Like there's a lot of pressure to make it in this league. There really is.
Either he's just horrendous, or maybe he didn't want to be here, or both.
Yeah.
I haven't seen much to say that he's not horrendous. He's just slow. He's a bad combination of slow, indecisive, and doesn't run hard. Like,
and not power. Yeah, he's not powerful for his size.
He
not
has no burst.
Not decisive.
I mean, you could throw to him a little bit. He's big. He's got, but like,
he can catch. What's
he going to do with the ball? And he can't. That's a problem. So anyway, goodbye, Trey Sermon. Maybe we're never going to talk about you again.